Welcome back to the fastest growing channel on YouTube, if you ask my mother and don't fact check it. My name is Javi. I will be your host today. Today is episode 1 of how to build an overland / camping trailer. But step 1 doesn't start in your garage. It starts with you in bed, watching a YouTube video of somebody taking their teardrop, square drop, overland camper trailer out and about, and you think, that looks cool, I want to do that. Followed the next day when you're on the toilet, Googling these trailers and finding out that they are legitimately the cost of a down payment of a house. So after you come to the conclusion that you don't want to spend $45,000 on a teardrop trailer, so you go on YouTube, you find a nice video of a nice guy who's going to show you how to build a trailer on a budget. And he goes, we have a budget of $2,000. And you're like, that sounds great. I can build something for that price. And then he pulls out a $1,000 welder with $500 tank of gas. And you're like, well, that's $3,500 right now. And then he's like, I have this spare axle laying around, which is another $150, and you realize his budget is very different from your budget. That's where I come in, because I'm going to keep track of every tool I buy, every tool I've had, and I'll put the cost for everything, all the metal, all the parts, so that you know how much this actually costs to build. We're not going to count my time as money, because it's not. But we will keep track of everything. Now, I'm going to do this myself kind of on a actual budget, where I'm going to look on Facebook, Craigslist, whatever other sales sites there are that won't get me murdered, looking for whatever parts and things I can find used, because I'm here to save money. So with all that said and done, let's get to design, and we can answer some basic questions there. Now let's talk design on this beautiful, hot Florida day. You have to decide if you want a square drop, a teardrop, a rooftop tent trailer. Do you want this to be kind of off-roady? So you're going to need suspension with possibly shocks. If you want to go way out and about, you can go with timber and axle-less suspension for off-road articulation. We are going to go with a leaf spring, more budget-friendly option, because the leaf springs are about $80 for 2 of them compared to $800 for the timber system. I'm going to be building a 5x8 square drop trailer with suspension and minor off-roading capabilities. The reason for this is I believe that if I build this, my girlfriend will go camping with me. And you may be watching this video thinking about the same with your wife. We'll both find out. So we will be building a 5x8 square drop trailer. Squares are easier to make than the teardrop shape, and since I'm relatively new at this, and chances are you are as well if we're making this, it's going to be easier for us, and we're going to have a simple 45-degree angle at the front, because 45-degree angles are easier than other degree angles, except 90, and I like to keep things simple. We have to remember the following KISS, which is keep it simple, stupid, for the best results. Now we are going to make the walls 4 feet tall, so we can completely utilize a 4x8 sheet and makes it where we don't have to cut. Our roof is going to be 5 feet wide, so we can use a 5x10 sheet, and we're going to be using aluminum composite material, which isn't the cheapest, but it will offer us a good version of strength, stability, and keeping it lightweight, because we want to keep the weight down. Our main frame underneath is going to be 1/8 inch thick wall. The general rule for frame thickness that I can find on your off-road Expedition Portal, Tacoma World, off-road trailers on Reddit is generally 1/8 inch thick or 3/16 inch thick for your tongue and your frame. Pretty much anything above that is overkill, and you're just adding weight for nothing. And we're going to go with 1/8 inch thick, because this trailer is not going to be a super off-roader. Some off-road capability, but we're not going to go rock crawling with it. So 1/8 inch thick I think is going to be fine. Our walls are going to be 16 gauge, because they are going to be boxed in, so it will square it up and strengthen it once it's boxed in. Also, when we add our aluminum composite panels, it will be stronger. So I'm not too worried about 16 gauge, and it keeps the weight down, which is one of our main goals here. Can y'all believe this plane? Lastly, our tongue is going to be 13 feet long. This gives us enough room to be able to fully jackknife this trailer without running into either the body on the truck or our support for our tongue. That's the basics of our design, which we will get more into per episode as we keep on creating this trailer. Before we get too far into this build, there's something you need to consider for your build, and that is logistics. And that is, can you get the materials and metal to your place of work, such as your home, garage, shop, wherever you're working on this? Can you get the metal there? I ordered some 24-foot sticks and actually ended up needing to rent a friend's trailer to get them here. A lot of metal places will offer to cut the metal for you to make it more easily maneuverable, but they charge like $5 a cut, so you can add up really quickly if you need to cut these things, all these different pieces. Then of course we're going to have our side walls and panels, which our trailer design wise is going to be a 5x8, so we need to have 5-foot width panels. So that's another thing we're going to have to transport. So that can either be a trailer on your roof of your truck. If you have a larger truck, obviously you can throw it in the back, but if you have a Tacoma, it doesn't really fit well, so it's just something you need to consider. But now we move on to the garage and tools, because that is the second most important thing after the design. Now we're back in the garage, and let's talk about tools, more specifically a welder, because this is probably going to be single-handedly the most important tool we use on this entire project. If you're making your trailer out of wood, I'm assuming that a welder is probably not as important, but since ours is metal, we need a welder. Now this welder is $300 on Amazon. It is a dual flux core / MIG, which requires gas. Now this gas tank costs $400. This welder is $300. This is $700 just before you even get started. Now you can also use a Harbor Freight flux core welder for $180, which is what my first one was, and that will work fine for this project because it can weld up to 1/8 inch thick. We are going to use this because I got this tank gifted to me for free, but unless you plan to do farther fabrication with metal, I kind of recommend you go the cheaper route. Otherwise, this gets expensive very quickly. Depending on the welder you have, this one requires 220 volts. 220 volts requires you to run something in your garage. Now, if you are not an electrician or you are not comfortable running electricity in your house, you'll have to call an electrician, which can add another at least $500. My dad and I ran this one for about $100, so we saved some money there. But like I said, this adds up very quickly if you're not prepared. Now, this Harbor Freight titanium 125 flux core does use 110, so you can run it off a normal outlet. So if you're looking to go the cheaper route, it's going to require some more work dealing with flux core, which I'm not going to go in really into the difference because I'm not qualified to tell you, but it's a little bit messier and it's a little different process. But I built my last one with it. You can do it too to save a lot of money. Let's say you go with the Harbor Freight welder. You're going to still need a bunch of other stuff with it, like a jacket to protect yourself, some gloves, a helmet. You're going to need wire to weld with. You're going to need clamps, more clamps than you think, a drill, a grinder, another grinder, probably a third grinder, a chop saw for the metal, a router for the wall pieces, flap disc for those grinders that you're going to run out of, a tape measure, squares, a fan since you're doing this in the Florida summer, another fan, and more fans because it's going to be hot. This in total comes out to $993, and this is with the cheaper welder. Add another $500 if you're going with a gas MIG welder. And this isn't even everything. There will be extra tools that I can't think of right now that we will end up using. And lastly, but certainly not least, you need one of these. This is a Evolution cutoff saw, which is what you're going to use to make all your cuts with anything from 0 to 45 degrees, and it's going to make them straight. And it's a cold cut saw, which means there's no grinding, so it will cut cleanly prepared for you to weld, and it's going to save you so much time. It will make its money back. It gives you clean cuts, and it does it quickly and easily. I cannot recommend one of these enough. I really think you should get one of these if you plan to build a trailer, because it's going to make it so much easier. I'd like to thank you for watching. This is episode 1 of our Overland trailer build. We're only going to go up from here. Next episode is the frame, so I recommend you subscribe so you can stay in the loop of how we build this, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.